everybody. I hope everybody's doing great. I am doing a tutorial this time on how to cover your cardboard, and I'm gonna be explaining a little bit about different cardboards that you will find in the market. So let's get started with that. I'm gonna be talking about cake boards, and there's a few in the market, and I'm gonna go through them so you know the difference between all of them. This one is a Wilton cake board, and it has like a wax cover on the top, and you can actually put a cake on top of this and it won't soak all the juices into the cardboard, so it's a good thing because when it's not covered in the wax, it looks really ugly with the cardboard underneath. The problem that I found with this one is that it's on the thin side. So if you have a big cake and you're trying to take this to somebody else, it tends to bend and your cake can crack. So for bigger cakes, I really do not recommend this. I rather leave those for my home use in a place where I know it's gonna be stable, and if it cracks a little bit, it doesn't really matter. But for somebody else, I don't like to use them unless you put something stronger underneath them, or maybe glue a few of them together. Then you have these ones. These ones are from Lady Mary Ateco, and they have like a ruffle on the side. They have a plastic, so you can actually put your cake in here, and same, it would be safe, not it will make the board all soft and soggy, so it's a good thing. But then again, same thing, it's a thin board, so if you're gonna use this for a heavy cake, I would suggest to put more boards underneath, glue them, so it makes a stronger board. They're used a lot for parties and bakery style type of cakes. Then you have your drum board. This is the one I use mostly in wedding cakes, and I like to use them up to probably 4 tiers. If you're gonna do a cake that is really heavy, I usually suggest using maybe a wood board, because even though this strong 5-tier cake can get really heavy. Even though I have been able to put them on top of this, it depends on how heavy the cake is, so you have to watch out for that. But this is my favorite kind of cake board for any cake. It looks pretty, and you can actually cover this with fondant, which makes it even better, and it's pretty strong. So here you have your basic cardboard. It is a thin cardboard, and now these days they're coming kind of covered on the top with a glossy shine, which helps protect the cake board soak in all the juices. Before, it used to be not shiny like this, even though it was white, but still you would see all the grease soaking in. Still, when I put this in between tiers, I like to cover both sides in wax paper. I have a video where I show how I do this, and this is what I would use in between tiers for stack cakes. Now, if you don't have a drum like the one I showed you earlier, you can take a few of this. If you want it thicker, you can even go thicker, but you can put them together and glue them with a glue gun, and then cover this with fancy foil and use it as a drum. So here I have my cardboards, and I have 3 of them. If you want it thicker, you can actually add another one. We're trying to make one of this using regular ones, just in case you cannot find this available and you're in a hurry to use one. So you would need a glue gun, and what you want to do is glue them together. Now, I don't suggest putting like thick lines of glue, because that would make it uneven. So try to make a nice thin line, enough to glue it together. Make sure they're aligned. You don't want them not aligned, because then they would not be even on the side. So make sure they're completely aligned. Like I said, no big pieces of glue. So if you have them, try to smash them so they don't make a bulk of glue in your board, or make sure that when you're pressing them to get rid of the areas where are higher. Again, you want to place it on top and make sure that is nice and even so the borders all meet, and press well. And now you're ready to cover this with some fancy foil. So these in here are the fancy foil. Fancy foil basically is what we use to cover our boards. They come in different colors, and some of them have like patterns, so you can kind of choose between patterns. Wilton has one that has no pattern to it. Now keep in mind, this is not foil. Aluminum foil breaks easy, and when you're cutting a cake you can actually break the foil and serve a piece of foil to your guests. This is a little bit stronger, so it's not the same as aluminum foil. So we're gonna cover our cake board using fancy foil. Now that I have my board ready for the fancy foil, before I do that, I'm gonna take some tape. I'm using some Scotch satin tape, and I'm just gonna go around my border here, and I have a small piece, but you can do longer pieces. And I am doing this just as an extra step to make sure that when I put the fancy foil, everything is nice and level. So all you want to do is just go around, place your tape, and just fold it towards the inside to the cardboard, and do the whole edge of your cardboard. So here I have my fancy foil, and I'm gonna switch it to the other side. This is the back of it, and I'm gonna place my board in it. It would be this way, and you want to cut this around 2 inches to the outside, especially for this one. If it's a thinner board, you can go smaller, but 2 inches is enough. It's not a perfect science, so you don't have to be perfect going around it. It's just an idea, because this is not really gonna be seen. So just go around and cut around 2 inches. Like you see, I'm not trying to be perfect, because once I start gluing this, it's not gonna really matter. Now, these pieces that I have here, I sometimes use for my flowers, like my daisies. So you can save these, all the corners from your paper, you can save it, and this part you can use it for making flowers. So if you like to save money, this is a good way to save some money, using these for your royalizing flowers. Now I'm ready to actually glue this board to my tin foil, and there's 2 ways of doing this. One way is kind of like marking your border, so you know where you have to cut, which would be around that line, and doing small cuts all around up to that line. If you go higher than that line, then it would show a lot in here, and you don't want that. And you would place some glue in here, and then just take this and fold it on top of it. And the cuts would help for the pieces to lay flat. In a hurry, I just tend to pull the whole thing and make sure that I have a flat line that is not bunching up a lot in here. And then I take my glue and then just make sure that is gluing well. You have to be careful with the glue, especially with a hot glue. I do this a lot with gloves on, because the gloves do protect my hands from the heat. So I really don't do it with no gloves, and so this is a little bit scary because my glue gun is really hot. But you can use gloves. Your gloves might stick to the glue, but at least you won't get burned easily. So you go all around, make sure that it's flat on the border, and then you kind of lift it a little bit and put more glue. And you have to make sure that you kind of bring it from the top, from the side to the top. And you see the cuts anyway happen, so you know, if you want to save some time, I usually don't do all those little cuts. Remember, from the side to the top, do make sure that this is nice and flat. And then once this is done, you can actually roll your board on your table to make sure that everything is nice and flat. And there is your cardboard. Okay, so here we have our covered drum, the one that we did, and this is the one that you buy commercially. The thing I like mostly about the commercial ones is they're stronger, a lot stronger, and it has sharper corners. This would work well in a bind. I usually would cover this with fondant if I'm doing a fondant cake, and I do rather still use the fancy foil to put my fondant on top of it because it will stick better than if it was just cardboard. So that's my personal option, but it's just an easy fix. It almost looks like the ones that you buy. So remember that if you don't have the ones that they sell already made, you can always make your own. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Until next time, ta-ta!